You ever hear a song that's everywhere for a few months and then nothing? That's what we call a one-hit wonder. A singer or rapper who drops one banger and then disappears like they
Watch me whip, whip, watch me nay-nay. Why me do now watch me whip.
and then disappears like they hit the snooze button on fame. Let's start with CJ. Yep, the guy behind that super catchy track Whoop-Dee.
Whoop-Dee, bitch, I'm outside of some movie.
It was all over TikTok, YouTube, clubs, you name it. People even started calling him CJ Whoop-Dee because that's literally the only song they knew from him. But before that viral moment, CJ was grinding behind the scenes. He wasn't some overnight success like people assume. He'd been making music since he was just 14, uploading his songs to YouTube and SoundCloud. Then came 2020. Out of nowhere, CJ dropped Whoop-Dee, and boom, instant smash. The beat? A sample already made famous by names like Pop Smoke and King Von. The hook? Super addictive. Within months, it had racked up nearly 500 million views and went double platinum. Warner Records came calling and signed him right after the song popped off. You'd think this was the start of something huge, right? Well, not exactly. His next song, Bo P, did okay, but it didn't come close to the storm Whoop-Dee created. Then came his album Loyalty Over Royalty, which dropped and kinda flopped. People weren't really checking for it. The hype just didn't stick. He kept releasing music, but nothing seemed to land the same way. Eventually, the big label and CJ went their separate ways. Some even claim he was dropped, though CJ hasn't confirmed that. Either way, the big machine behind him stopped pushing, and he kinda faded from the spotlight. But here's where it started to fall apart for CJ. A lot of folks say the reason he couldn't keep the buzz going was simple. He was just riding a wave. His big song Whoop-Dee dropped at a time when drill music was everywhere. And to be honest, it dropped right after a huge moment, when one of drill's biggest stars, Pop Smoke, passed away. The world wanted more of that sound, and Whoop-Dee scratched that itch. It wasn't just timing, it was also the style. The beat CJ used? It sounded almost exactly like something Pop Smoke would have rapped on. It was actually CJ's first time doing drill music. So it wasn't his natural style, it was more like hopping on what was hot. But once the moment passed, CJ didn't have anything that really stood out on its own. And then came the other problem, the street image. Some people started calling him out, saying he wasn't really living the life he was rapping about. That's something fans in this genre don't play about. Once people think you're faking, it's hard to bounce back. Could he come back? Sure, he's still young, and the music world is full of second chances. But with so many people either annoyed by him or completely forgetting he exists, it's looking like an uphill climb. Now, let's talk about someone whose one-hit wonder moment came with pure swagger and gold chains. Trinidad James.
Gold all in my chain. Gold all in
You probably remember him from that loud, flashy anthem, All Gold. That was his moment. Trinidad didn't waste time. After high school, he started writing lyrics, playing with beats, and once he got into a real studio, boom, he recorded his breakout song. All Gold, Everything hit the internet like wildfire and took off immediately. The track hit No. 36 on Billboard, went platinum, and landed him a huge deal with Def Jam for a reported $2 million. That's big-time money off one song. In early 2013, he dropped a remix of the song featuring heavy hitters like T.I., Jeezy, and 2 Chainz. Not to mention, Bruno Mars even borrowed a bit of that flow in Uptown Funk. Yup, Trinidad's influence was everywhere. He started getting features with all kinds of big names. Logic, Gucci Mane, Whale, and even A$AP Ferg in that legendary Work remix with A$AP Rocky and Schoolboy Q. So technically, yeah, he had a couple more tracks that went gold or platinum. By 2014, Trinidad dropped his next project, 10PC. Mild, and he brought the heat with the features. Travis Scott, Danny Brown, Gucci again. But even with all that star power, it didn't really stick. Reviews were all over the place, and sales didn't match the hype. After the hype started to fade, Trinidad James went quiet for a bit. Then, boom, he tweeted out that he'd been dropped from his label. These days, he's still making music, posting content, and honestly just vibing. He might not have another all-gold everything, but he's clearly still doing what he loves and staying tapped into the culture. Now, let's switch gears to another name you probably heard once and haven't thought about since. Masked Wolf.
What you know about rolling down in the deep when you...
Yup, now you remember. That's Astronaut in the Ocean, the song that was everywhere for a minute, and Masked Wolf is the guy behind it. So here's the deal with Masked Wolf. He'd been chasing the music dream since he was a kid, learning instruments, writing songs, but it wasn't until 2018, when he was already 27, that things started moving. That's when he signed his first deal with Teamwork Records and dropped a song called Speed Racer. Nothing major happened right away, but in 2000, he dropped Astronaut in the Ocean. At first, crickets. Barely made a splash. But the song didn't just vanish, it simmered. And then, 2 years later, in 2021, after signing with a bigger label, Elektra Records, they decided to re-release Astronaut in the Ocean. This time, kaboom! It went totally viral. The track exploded on TikTok, jumped to number 6 on the Billboard charts, and went double platinum. People couldn't get away from it, even if they wanted to. It had that kind of hypnotic loop that made it perfect for memes and background clips. And that's part of what made it so viral. But here's the thing, Masked Wolf? He was actually trying to be taken seriously. He grew up a huge fan of artists like Kendrick. He wanted to make thoughtful, lyrical rap. But after Astronaut in the Ocean blew up as more of a meme than a message, people didn't really give him that same respect. And the label? Well, they started pushing him in a different direction. He followed up with some new tracks and even dropped his debut album, Astronomical. But none of it came close to that first viral hit. So what happened after Astronaut in the Ocean? Masked Wolf said his label kept trying to chase that same viral magic. But every time they pushed him in a new direction, it just didn't hit. The songs didn't connect the way Astronaut did. Eventually, both sides called it quits. Was he dropped? Did they split on good terms? He says it was mutual, which is usually industry speak for nobody wants to say what really happened. Either way, Masked Wolf is now fully independent and back in control. He's not pretending he doesn't know what's up. He knows most people recognize just the first few seconds of that one song from TikTok, and that's it. But now he's trying to make music that actually reflects who he is, not just something that goes viral for laughs. And like CJ, his story isn't over. He's still early in his career, so there's always room for a bounce back. Now, let's talk about someone who had one of the biggest viral hits of the 2010s.
Watch me, nay, nay. Now watch me whip.
And then totally vanished. Silento. That track was a full-on dance craze. Middle schools, weddings, YouTube tutorials, you couldn't escape it. Silento started young. In 8th grade, he was already working with local producers and dropping tracks online. But when he was a junior in high school, he linked up with Bolo the producer and cooked up a song that he knew was going to go viral. He started reaching out to promo companies and caught the attention of Capitol Records. The label was trying to ride the wave of dance challenges, which were huge at the time. So they launched a full campaign around Watch Me, and the timing was perfect. When Watch Me, Whip Nay Nay, dropped, it didn't just go big, it became a full-blown movement. That song went 6x platinum, and the video racked up close to 2 billion views on YouTube. At one point, literally everyone was doing the dance. Kids, celebrities, even those stiff TV anchors who had no business trying to whip or nay nay. The song was in the Billboard Top 10 for more than 6 weeks. But the thing is, his fame wasn't really about him. It was about the dance, the vibe, the moment. And that kind of hype? It's hard, if not impossible, to recreate. Fast forward a few years. Silento drops his first full album, fresh out of high school, in 2018. But by then, the magic had worn off. Most of the tracks barely cracked 100,000 plays on Spotify. He grew up in a rough part of Georgia and later shared that he was born into a world filled with heavy stuff. He talked about seeing some really scary things in his own family, things that no kid should ever witness. And while his public face was all smiles, deep down he was struggling. He was dropped by Capitol Records before his album even came out, after the label had already cashed in on Watch Me with tours, merch, and every promo possible. In 2019, he opened up about his mental health after his publicist, Chanel Hudson, noticed he wasn't doing well. He was missing major TV appearances and breaking down under pressure. Traveling non-stop, trying to keep the spotlight, none of it helped. and then the pandemic hit. That's when things got even darker. He reportedly tried to take his own life, and soon after, his life spun further out of control. He had multiple run-ins with the law in California over domestic situations and carrying certain items he shouldn't have. At one point, he was even caught speeding over 140 miles an hour. But the most shocking part? In 2021, Salento was hit with some serious charges. He was accused of being involved in the death of his own cousin. The case included words like malice, felony, and firearm, which tells you just how heavy it got. Details are still limited, but that year he dropped an album called Bars Behind Bars. Most of the tracks barely got 10,000 plays. Most people assume he's still waiting for trial. If that's changed and you know more, feel free to drop it in the comments. And there you have it, some of the biggest one-hit wonders who went from viral fame to total silence. Whether they faded out quietly, reinvented themselves, or got caught up in major drama, one thing's for sure: their songs left a mark. But now, it's your turn. What other songs or artists do you want to see in Part 2? Drop your favorite forgotten hits in the comments, especially those tracks that had the whole world dancing, singing, or memeing. And then, poof, disappeared. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive. Alright, that's it from me. See you in the next one. Peace out.